Well, welcome back to the Triumph Roadster restoration. Today I'm going to be checking over the fuel system. In a previous episode we drained and flushed the tank, and today I'm going to be taking off the fuel pump, giving it a good clean because I'm sure there's dirt in there, and if we get time I may even take the carburettor off and clean that too. So, fingers crossed it all goes well, and let's get going. So I'm now going to have a quick go at testing the fuel pump. I'm going to put some petrol in it, and then we'll disconnect the line before the carburettor, and then we'll turn the engine over and we'll see if we can get any petrol to come out the petrol line. That should do. So this is the petrol pump down here underneath the distributor, and it's got this little hand priming lever. So I'm going to disconnect the line here. Well, that was easy, I didn't even need nothing for that. And I'm going to hold some sort of object under here to stop it dribbling all over everything. And we shall see if the pump works well enough to get petrol out of there. So I've put this beautiful rag underneath the petrol line here. I'll just try pumping the pump on the hand primer. Ooh, it's making an interesting noise. But we're going to try turning the engine over now, which will make the pump, and we'll see if anything comes out. And hopefully we won't get it everywhere. Nothing come out yet. It's still very dry. Oh dear. So maybe now I might just whip the line off before the pump, and we'll see if it's not strong enough to pump it up here. It may need a refurb. So I've now got the petrol line off, as you can see, and from those drops you can tell that there is petrol in it. Which shows that the pump is doing something, even if it's not able to pump it right up to the top. And if I put my finger, my rather grubby finger, over the end and work the hand primer, I can feel that there is suction on my finger. And you can hear it making a little sucking noise there. So the next thing I'm going to do is look inside the top of the pump just to check that there isn't any mess or debris in there which might be stopping it working properly. And then if there is, I'll have to take it off and probably give it a good clean. I open the pump up, and although there is petrol, there's also an awful lot of rust or something in the bottom. So I think that's going to need a very, very thorough cleaning, because we really don't want that going to the carburetor. Yes, I'd better take that off. That's the other one. There we are. Oh gosh, that's a... Okay, now it's dribbling on me. There's the pump off. You can see just how filthy it is inside. I wasn't expecting it to be this dirty, but that is appalling, and it's all rust. So I don't know if that's come from the tank or somewhere else. We'll have to investigate that and give this a thorough cleaning out. This is how the pump works. This little arm rubs on the crankshaft when the engine is in motion, and then it just squeezes the diaphragm inside, which is in under here, and that just pumps the fuel. And then the little actuator arm also moves this, but it only moves at a sort of minute amount compared to the actual movement as it would have on the engine. So I finished washing out the petrol pump. It's looking a lot better. Now I'm going to put it back on the car but not connect it to the tank because I'm worried that's where the rust will have come from. So after much fiddling with the pump, I've eventually managed to get it back onto the car and it's working as it should. It took ages because the little arm kept going underneath the cam on the crankshaft. So when you put it on, it wouldn't move, and if you turn the engine over, it would probably snap off the little arm, so he didn't want to do that. But I eventually got it on, so now we're going to, well, I'll put the filter and the little screw back in. So this is how the pump works. The petrol line goes in here, this bit fills up with petrol, and then the petrol is sucked by the diaphragm down into this hole here through this metal sort of gauzy stuff. That sits on there like that. Then this little screw goes in. I assume that the line coming from the tank to the pump must still be slightly blocked, even if I don't know where. But luckily I have a piece of hose pipe and I'm going to put it over the end here and try and blow down it, and if we can hear bubbling at the end of the line in the tank, we know that there isn't a blockage or I've dislodged it. Well, the flexible fuel line's back on here, so if I put the hose on that end and screw it on, stop any air leaks. Oh, no, there's nothing coming out. Nothing's coming out in the tank. So I'm now going to go and look for a length of wire or some other long, thin object that I can poke down the line and hopefully dislodge anything that's lurking within. Right, I have found a length of whippersnipper line, basically. So rather than having this spinning around at high speed on the end of a two-stroke engine, I'm going to pop this through the petrol line and dislodge anything. I should have mentioned when I was blowing down there that I couldn't blow any air through at all, which shows that there's definitely a blockage. There's no question about that. I spent a good while pushing the plasticky weed strimmery line stuff down now, and I've got to the point where I can't push it any further without it jumping out again. So I assume we've got all the way to the tank, hopefully, but I'm now going to remove it and I'll make a mark in this place here, and then I'll measure it out and check that it did get all the way. Oh, that wasn't very far. Oh dear. Well, I had another go with the yellow twine, but I couldn't get that any further. So then I found some special fishing twine, which I put down. And I might have got it a bit further, but I'm now going to pull it out and see how far it went. I couldn't get the yellow stuff further than about a metre. Oh yeah, this has gone further than a metre. Gosh, it's still going. So that's gone about a metre and a quarter, 5 feet. I have to think of something else to try now. Well, good news, I found something very interesting. I've got an enormous syringe here and a sort of weird connecting object on the other end, which I put into my garden hose, which is connected at this end to the flexible joint of the fuel line. So I'll connect the flexible to the fixed fuel line again, and then I'll see if I can either blow or suck some petrol up and hopefully dislodge something in the process. Well, it's all connected now, and I've got the syringe here, so if I give it a squeeze, I think that's blocked. Very firmly blocked indeed. Might be time to try out the compressor. Well, I've now got my compressor hooked up to the tube going into the fuel line, so hopefully we should be able to get a bit more pressure that way and blow out any muck that may be lurking in there. Oh, that was short-lived. Just blown off the other end. Well, I've had absolutely no luck trying to blow down the fuel line with the compressor either, so I think now I'm going to turn my attention back to the pump, and I'm just going to check that it does work by putting a little bit of petrol in a pot of some sort and reconnecting the fuel line, having the fuel line running into the pot, and then we can see if when we turn the engine over it comes out at the carburetor union. So that's what I'm going to try now. I've now put the line back on. I've got a fire extinguisher handy, and I've also got a little cup of petrol, which I should be able to rest like that. And now I'll move the camera around so you can see the carburetor union, and then I'll turn the engine over and fingers crossed something will come out. I can even prime the pump. Oh, that's good, it's going down. Maybe I won't need to turn the engine over. Ah, and we've already got a leak. That was very quick. I'll see if tightening that will do anything. Oh, well, I haven't put it on, that's why it's not leak. That's why it's leak. Must have taken it off. Silly me. Don't even need to turn the engine over. So cleaning the pump clearly did work. That's very good. So that just means that the line is the only thing stopping the petrol coming through from the tank. So that should be our next job. So I'm now going to try taking off this air box thingy, sort of air box, that joins the silencer, which sits in this side here, to the carburetor, which is on the other side. Now, I should have mentioned that the other reason I'm taking this off is because inside it's absolutely filthy. And I don't want that going into the carburetor. So that is what I don't want in there. So I'm just cleaning out the inside of the air box with a bit of petrol, and hopefully that'll remove all of the black sort of dusty build-up that's in there. Now the last thing I want to do today is actually to take off the Solex carburetor. The reason I want to do this is because it's highly likely that over the years there'll be various deposits of evaporated petrol inside it, which obviously we don't want getting into the jets when we finally run the car. So I'm going to take it off, disassemble it partially, and try and give it as good a clean as I can with the carburetor cleaning facilities I have available to me. So I'm going to take off the choke and throttle linkages as well as the fuel line, and then it should just unbolt down here from the manifold itself. Now what I'm hoping is that I'll be able to take off the linkages themselves rather than disconnecting the cables, because that way I can preserve where the cables are and hopefully then not disturb how it's set up. So if I try and remove this one first, we can see how that goes. Never mind, I'm going to have to take the cable out. Nothing. Now, what I realised when trying to take off this bolt, and hence the bracket, was that you actually have to take off the other one first, and then you can gradually lift it up and undo it a bit more each time you lift it up. But they're both loose now. That one's nearly off. I just need to be ready to remove it, and the last thing I need to do is take off the fuel union here. Now I should be able to just lift it up and avoid losing the nuts down here. Oh, there goes the washer. Good news, I found both of the little washers, so I'll just put the nuts all back on the studs here on the manifold. So here is the Solex downdraft carburetor off the engine. It looks in pretty good condition to me, but we can't really tell until we get inside it. I'm not familiar with this type, so I'll look at the service manual before I disassemble it completely, but I assume that the standard problems would apply, so checking that the float isn't iffy and all the valves are still seating properly, as well as for play in the butterfly. This one does seem to have a bit of play from left to right, but that may just be because I've removed the linkage, so that may push it further in. So I've now returned under the car because clearly the problem is in the fuel line here, and there's some blockage in it somewhere, and we can't squeeze the good old whippersnipper line down far enough to clear it out. So I'm back underneath the tank. There's an axle stand over there. Look, ooh, very nice. And I'm going to try and take the line off the tank, and hopefully I can plug the hole in the tank before all the petrol comes out. If not, I do have the drip tray here. And then I can try and unblock the line from this end. So let's give that a go. That wasn't too bad. May have to drain that petrol anyway. So now, hopefully, with my tube and syringe, I can test to see that the blockage is in the line and possibly suck it out or blow it out the other end. Ah, it's just come off. Well, there's definitely the blockage in the line. Well, it's good it's not in the tank. But there's nothing happening there. Well, I've been under here fiddling with this, trying to clear the blockage out for about an hour now, and it's getting very cold and very stinky with the petrol under here, so I'm going to try and put the union back into the petrol tank, and then I'll have a nice cup of tea. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of me fiddling around with the fuel system. Hopefully next time we'll be able to clear out that pesky petrol line once and for all. And unfortunately, I think we'll need to flush the fuel tank again and possibly even remove it, because when I drained it this most recent time, it was still full of rust. These are just the things which happen when you're dealing with old cars. Anyway, I'll say thank you very much for watching, and ta-ta for now.